This is Paw Print, an animal rescue community, episode 45. I'm Harold Ree. Want to talk to you today about the 3 things that I've learned doing the initial 45 episodes of the Paw Print Animal Rescue podcast. I would say it's way beyond 3, but let's just focus on 3 right now. Number 1, the immense talent of our guest list. I would put it up against anybody, and it just goes to show you how amazing people involved in animal rescue are. I mean, you take 45 CEOs, you take 45, athletes, you take 45 animal rescue folks, it's going to be a close competition. That's how truly dedicated these people are. When I look at our list, you think of all the different authors, the different artists, business people, entrepreneurs. I mean, these are some amazing folks in their own right, especially when you get to know their stories. I mean, I'm thinking about let's just take a few just from the first 10 episodes. You have people like Dr. Sarah Boston. I mean, she's a veterinarian, a cancer survivor, wrote her own book, just an amazing person. You know, you got a guy like Penn Farthing, CNN Hero of the Year, lives in Afghanistan, was originally a Royal Marine, and he basically has dedicated his life to saving animals in Afghanistan, which, if you don't know, is in a state of war. So it just goes to show you how dedicated a guy like Penn is. Then you have, obviously, folks like Greg Maley. Greg Maley is a guy who has driven a truck, not even a very good truck, over 1 million miles, or vehicles over 1 million miles, to save literally thousands and thousands. I think last count was something like 80,000 dogs. And he's finally going to get his wish of a brand new truck later this year, or in the middle of this year. So just amazing stuff going on with Greg Maley. And even just guest number 10, Aya Eintracht. You know, this is someone who, she writes a blog about her dogs and cats. We sometimes get the strongest response from her episode. What she did was just so heartfelt, just writing these beautiful blog posts, short stories about her dogs and cats. So, and that's just the first 10 guests. I haven't even covered the other 35. I mean, these are just some of the folks from our first 10 guests. They're not even all 10 I'm talking to you about. There's other people I could totally mention to you. So anyways, hopefully in our Paw Print Animal Rescue podcast, you do get inspired to get more involved in animal rescue. Once again, everybody plays a part. You can just go walk a dog once a month. You can foster. You can help do laundry. I mean, there's so many little things. You can do social media if that's your expertise. You can help write a press release. There are just so many tasks that are involved in animal rescue. So many unsung heroes, some of whom we do truly try to highlight. Folks who you never see, they're only behind the scenes, or you pass them on the street and you don't really know their story. Well, hopefully we're able to shine a little spotlight on these truly extraordinary people and truly extraordinary heroes. Number 2, and this is actually for a small percentage of you listening out there, for that 1% of maybe the 1% who listen to our show and think, you know what? I'd like to do that. I'd like to interview interesting people and put it up on a podcast. Well, one thing I will say to you is go for it. Do it. If you want to ever talk to Nancy or myself, we're free to talk to you. We actually, every once in a while, we do talk to folks who are thinking about starting their own podcast. Doesn't even have to be an animal rescue podcast. If you love cooking, maybe you just have a passion for Italian food and you want to start a podcast. Believe me, you can do it. Maybe you're a teacher. Maybe you're a lawyer, a doctor. I mean, so many different interests you can pursue through a podcast. And the one thing I would say to you is, so far our show has been twice a week. We've done 45 episodes now. I would say don't feel pressure to commit to this the rest of your life. Some folks have done a podcast for simply 10 episodes and they're done. They did their 10 episodes. They got to say what they wanted to say. They got to interview the people they wanted to interview, share the stories that somehow that they were important stories to share and spread around the world. And then they were done. So don't feel this pressure, which sometimes people do. I'm not sure why, but don't ever feel this pressure that this needs to somehow become, podcasting needs to somehow become a lifelong commitment. Just like some folks write one book and they're done, or record one album and they're done. Some folks start a podcast for a couple months and they're done, and that's just fine. Finally, number 3 is that to truly do something great, you have to commit, you have to sacrifice. I think that goes without saying, and hopefully most of you out there listening understand that, and hopefully you practice that. But whether it's creating your own animal rescue organization, whether it's starting your own business, whether it's being a parent, whether it's being a teacher, to do that really, really well, it's something that takes commitment and time, a lot of patience. And the same goes with creating this show. Nancy and I pour an awful lot of time into it, and we love it. We simply love it. This is something that I could definitely see myself doing on and on and on. I don't really see an end date at this point. One, because we're meeting so many interesting people. And if you just think about it, we'll maybe be doing 90 to 100 episodes this year. That's such a small number of people who we could potentially interview. I mean, there are probably thousands of people out there who have incredible stories to share. We could do this for the next, 30, 40 years, and we wouldn't get even close to capturing the huge amount of stories around the world when it comes to folks who truly care about animals. The sacrifices you're making right now are going to pay dividends later. There are going to be times when you are down. I mean, that is the cycle of learning. When you learn, you get pumped up, you get excited, but then you hit some plateaus, you hit some rocky points. That can go for weight loss, that can go for learning piano, that can go for, learning how to shoot a basketball. All I would say is, just like when Nancy and I talk about this podcast, we get pumped up. Even though we do have some tough days, no doubt there are some tough days, and some days where you feel a little sleep deprived, or you feel like you're not quite sure what direction to go in, or you feel like nobody understands you, or nobody gets you, or it can even just feel a little lonely. Sometimes that journey to greatness can be a very lonely journey. And all I would say to you is keep your head up, don't give up, keep going for your dream. Remember that as long as you can impact even just one person, in some cases, that is all it takes to be worth it. We'd all obviously have dreams of influencing thousands, maybe millions of people ultimately. But if you can just start with inspiring or impacting that one person, that's all you need, at least to start. That's all you need to get that start. So go for it. Go for your dreams. Don't give up. And hopefully, maybe listening to this podcast can, in some small way, inspire you. Not just our guests and their animal rescue stories, but hopefully you really get to know our guests and their own personal stories. Some of these folks have really gone through some tough times, and they've persevered. Not only have they survived, but they've thrived. What's up for the rest of the year? I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to stick as closely as possible to about 2 episodes a week. We'll probably end just around Thanksgiving, so November of 2016. I would imagine Nancy and I were going to take a break in December just to kind of clear our head and get some ideas for 2017. But what you'll see from us, or what you'll hear from us, we already have a lot of interviews lined up. We already have a lot of interviews recorded. We're more than excited to get them to you in the upcoming weeks and months. Finally, just want to say thank you truly to all of you. What you do by either listening and talking to Paul Griffin, he said it best, sometimes podcasts are great because you can listen to them while you're walking your dogs. So, hopefully you're not just listening to this podcast. Hopefully you're listening to some of the hundreds and thousands of unbelievable podcasts out there while you're walking your dog or doing your chores or waking up in the morning. on your commute, for example. If you want to check out the show notes for this episode, you can find it at thisispawprint.com/45. And remember that Nancy and I truly appreciate you, and you do spread a positive message of love and peace by saving an animal. And see you next time with another fresh interview on Paw Print.